How dare you play a system that's not PC? Guy that takes his video game consoles way too seriously into his 30s. No, PlayStation's the best, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise.
You even lost your headphones over that.
Yeah.
There is something
Well,
douchey, I would say. And I am
character.
a PC Master Race person, you know? But there is something douchey, I would say, like when PC gamers kind of lord that over other people. But the reason, okay, so I think the reason why PC gaming is the best is that when you get a console game, it almost about feels like, as a PC gamer, and you get a game for like the PS4, it feels like you're not getting the complete game. That's how I
Yeah.
feel,
Training,
you know?
training wheels almost.
Yeah, yeah, and it's because like on PC you can there's mods like the modding communities like can add so much to a game like Ark Survival Evolved. On my videos, you have no idea like how many questions I get like, oh, can you do this on the PS4? Can you do this on the Xbox One? No, you can't. You can only do it on the PC. So that's why there's a PC Master Race, and that's why if you're a console gamer and you're hardcore, you might want to consider at some point in your life upgrading to PC, getting used to using a keyboard and a mouse, much more effective than a controller, you know.
Or controller on your PC.
Or you can use controller on your PC if you want, you know. It's just the most adaptable, versatile, high performance machine you can have.
Actually, let's touch on this because I mean it's probably people are sick of this conversation, but we haven't had it on this podcast yet, so we're gonna have it now. But like me, I've always loved video games. Like since I was a little kid, I love video games. I love all the video games. I wish I had all the video games at all times. Now that I'm a man, I can't afford all the video games. Like I'm not gonna get a PS5 until they're $300, 8 years from now, probably. Because I can really only afford one, and I put my money into PCs. And a PC, in the long run, might actually be cheaper, but in the short term, it's much more expensive of an investment to get something decent. Like it costs like $1,000 to get a decent one computer that'll last you, 6 to 10 years of gaming, and that's a big initial investment, even though the games are typically cheaper. So I mean, it's like whatever you can afford to play the games that you want. Like that's what it's all about. I think obviously PC gives you versatility, especially access to amazing indie games. But if all you got is a PS4 that your brother gave you, I mean, then
That's
fucking
badass.
play the shit
Yeah,
out of
that's
it. Yeah,
badass.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no shame in being a console player at all. You know, but if you hear
No,
us,
you are just babies though.
and that's what I'm saying, like PC Master Race, people are kind of douchebags, you know, because there is that barrier to entry where a PC, if you want something that you can play modern games on, it's probably going to cost you around $800 at the minimum, which is twice the amount that you're going to spend on a modern day console. But I would say that I would see the future that consoles will actually maybe potentially be better platforms. Because the thing that consoles have going for them, your console won't get a virus like your computer will typically. Typically,
Viruses still exist.
yeah. Well, they shouldn't if you have the right software. But also, like with consoles, the hardware for them is meant to work well together. Where with a PC, you can have different hardware components that don't work well together. You gotta know a lot more about hardware if you're going to be a PC gamer. So that's another barrier to entry too. Consoles are just much more streamlined, much more easy, a lot less maintenance. And as the future goes,
Is that true anymore though?
I
I'm sorry to cut you
I
off.
think so.
It seems like with all the problems with the PS5 they've had, with like the hard drive issues and it going to the wrong hard drive.
That's
and,
a terrible mistake then, because that shouldn't happen with consoles.
Yeah, like the new Returnal game that came out, like they just went offline for like 2 days and then deleted everyone's like progress up to that point, and they were basically like, "Oh yeah, if you had this problem, just delete the game, reinstall." And no, you can't get your progress back.
So that's like an online issue.
Well, I also think it's like the hardware, as like these consoles have gotten closer and closer to PCs. I mean, they basically are just affordable PCs at this point, except for their closed off markets. Yeah. You're gonna run into that. But sorry, I didn't mean to overthrow your whole point, but you were saying.
No, you didn't. But yeah, like in the future, hardware is going to be, I think there was a time when people would say, technology is increasing 2 times every year, but that's slowing down, with hardware. You can't just keep getting 2 times better every year or whatever people used to say. It's slowing down. Like, the hardware is getting really good now. So consoles are having a chance to catch up, I think, to PCs as far as the hardware arena goes. So performance-wise, I don't think there's going to be a huge difference in the future between consoles and PCs, or anything else. So I think maybe in 10 years, I bet we'll see an evening playing field where the PC master race won't have so much to lord over the poor console, poverty-stricken players.
Yeah, those babies. Yeah. The one thing I'll push back, though, is I actually don't think that's true. I think consoles will die, and I think PCs, like fancy PCs, will also die, because with like things like the Stadia, the NVIDIA gaming, streaming gaming, I do think we'll get to a point where streaming video games at high quality with high frame rates will become the norm, and you won't need anything more than an iPad and a fucking controller to play.
That's a good point.
Or off of anything. You could play it off of anything, off your goddamn phone. And so the future might just be streaming onto TV screens that are like smart TVs or smart monitors, or very bare bones computers that don't need video cards in them anymore. As that technology gets better and better.
Yeah, and I've heard that as well, and that makes a lot of sense. All the performance will be handled on the server side, and everything's just digital, so all you need is a screen, which is a good idea. I don't, they'll need some kind of CDN type of network to be able to get that to all the players around the world without losing too much latency or having too much latency between the players. I guess that might be the big issue with that, but I'm sure that can be solved.
And internet. Yeah, and I feel like the big thing is that internet hasn't gotten that much better over time. Like, only some places still have gigabit. Like, we just got gigabit, and I just can't afford the high levels of it. So, so I think that's like the real barrier to entry. But I think, in 10 years, 20 years, the landscape will totally be different.
Yeah. Well, what did we have 10 years, before now? That was back in the Xbox day, like Xbox 360.
360.
Yeah. I guess that's not too terribly much of a difference between the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One.
I actually don't think the jump's been that much over the last 10 years, because, if you look at it, GTA 5 is still one of the number one played games, making the most money. And that shit's like 8 years old.
Yeah.
I know. Skyrim 5 is still one of the top played games. That shit's almost like 10 years. So, I don't know. It's interesting. There hasn't been like these huge groundbreaking games in a long time. And until we see like the next generation, the next Skyrim, which might not even be Elder Scrolls 6. It might be, Elder Scrolls 6 might bomb, and it might be some other game that takes up that mantle or captures the imagination. But we just haven't seen any of those yet.